to the Utah Puck Report. I am your host, Jay Stevens.
And I guess I call myself the co-host, Gary Michaels.
Well, yeah. I mean, you could be the host and I could be the co-host.
No, that wouldn't work out well. You're doing a bang-up job over there.
I don't think we ever really worked on titles. We just finagled ourselves a podcast. And
hey, we get to talk hockey.
We're like the only two hockey guys in here. Although, on my way in today, I ran into John Carter, and he's like, hey, when are you going to have me on your podcast?
Really?
And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, do you know a lot about hockey? He goes, no, but I like to talk. So,
well, that is a good point.
Today, very special guest, Kami. So, Kami, what is your last name now?
Anderson.
Kami Anderson. That's not how I've known you our entire lives. But you've been, it was Kami Cote, or how did you guys used to say it?
Cody, Cote, either one.
Because I remember, all of a sudden one year, because I was friends with your brother and with you for a long time, and then it was always Kami Cote and Clint Cote, and then all of a sudden Clint's like, no, it's Cote. I'm like,
yeah, someone decided to do that.
Egads. Moved up to the east side.
Yeah. Well, there was an NHL fighter, an NHL guy whose last name was Cote as well.
Oh.
And that's when I noticed that he changed it. So I don't know if it had anything to do with that or if we've just been saying it wrong. Because, like, with DJ Yoletto, which I'm not even saying it right now, after he told us 10 times how to say it right, we still messed it up all the time.
But is it Randy Bachman or Randy Bachman?
Yeah,
right?
see?
I mean,
good point.
Doesn't really matter.
All right, so Kami, I'm so excited to have you on the show today. I've been texting you since we started this show. When I submitted a list that said, all right, if you give me this podcast and we can talk about hockey, these are the people that I will have on the show, and this is their list of accomplishments. And like you were top 5 on the list of people that I wanted to have on the show and talk about, because I've always been so impressed with what you have done. Your hockey resume is incredible, and I'm excited to let everybody in Utah know your story, because I don't think everybody knows.
Yeah. I'm a little quiet on the quiet side.
Yeah, well, and you definitely are, because I mean, I don't notice if you're not on social media and you haven't been around coaching for a while. You have your own family that you're raising, and you have a career now. And but I mean, I want to get into it, but because you got a huge a huge acknowledgement to your career from your college. But before we talk about it, I want to start from the beginning, and I want you to tell everybody where you started, how you got into hockey, and then we're going to go through the journey and how you got out of Utah. So what's your first hockey memory?
So the funniest part is how I started playing hockey is that my brother's team, I was a figure skater at first. My dad wouldn't let us play because we were girls. But then as we got going, my brother's team needed players, so we talked him into letting us play, and then from there we took off as playing for hockey. And then my brother was a goalie. I started as a forward at first, but then he got sick one day, and we needed a goalie, and so I decided to do it. And then from then on out, we switched roles. I was goalie from then on out.
Wow.
That's awesome.
I didn't know that part. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So clearly the better, well, I'm just going to say the better athlete out of
We'll see if he's listening.
Yeah. What age was this when you started becoming a goaltender?
So I was probably around 10.
Okay. And who were you playing for at the time?
We were in Golden Spike.
Oh, okay.
Did you just fall in love with it right out of the gate?
The old rink, the old outdoor rink.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah. Did you love it right when you put the pads on, or did it take a little while to get used to? Or
I did. I mean, I am kind of on the klutzy side, so in a goalie you can fall in style. Some people don't know. You can just make it look good.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Gary's going through that right now. He's got a kid that's just always aching to put on the pads, and
8 years old, and boy, he's totally into it.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
worships Marc-Andre Fleury.
Yes, he does.
That's awesome. So, Kami, what happened after that? Where did you? So you played Golden Spike, and then obviously you started getting into travel, and
yeah, for most of it, I played a lot of rec for most. Till I was older, we just played on the boys' team. I mean, because people don't think girls should play sometimes. So we went through all that, almost at every level that I played. So it was pretty fun.
Did you have coaches just flat out say that you shouldn't be playing or try to not put you on teams?
Not really. Not that I can remember.
Okay.
I think if you can kind of play pretty well, that they'll accept you eventually. I mean, we've had players that would say it, but not too bad.
Yeah, that's crazy. Because, I mean, for me, my daughter always wanted to play, and I always wanted her to play. My wife just said no. She's just like, just please give me not having one of our family not be in hockey. And so because I always wonder. I mean, my daughter turned out to be a pretty good athlete, and I just wish, like, I'm like, man, she should be playing. Like, I don't know, like, she's doing fine, but as a hockey guy, you always wonder how she would have done in hockey. But my wife just was like, please don't play hockey. Please don't play hockey.
Yeah.
All right, so talk to me about, like, so you're progressing, and when do you start realizing that maybe you're going to get out of Utah?
So in high school, I started playing with the Lady Grizzlies. It was still pretty new, nothing like what it is now. And we started playing against other teams, and a Colorado team. And I had a couple other teams call just wanting, hey, we want you on our team, because they were more competitive than what we had here. And then so we ended up playing with a team from Aspen, where we just met on the road. We didn't practice or anything. We just met as a group.
Wow. And
played in tournaments, and that's where I got a couple offers and ended up at UVM.
Yeah, so tell me about that experience, because I've heard of a couple other teams that were like this. They're kind of like hybrid teams where, like, hey, we've got people that want to play. We can't get everybody together for practice, but hey, if we all join together on the road, like, was it hard to gel? Did you notice that the forwards maybe didn't know, they didn't know systems, or was it just fine? Did it work out just fine?
Ours worked out pretty well. Sometimes if we had a big tournament, we'd go in a day or two early and get a practice in. They'd rent some ice, and we'd practice before we started. But ours worked pretty well. We really didn't have too many problems, I don't think. And it was fun because you could still live at home, be with your family, instead of having to leave your family when you're younger, and still get to play at a good level.
Yeah, that makes sense, and that's awesome. And then you guys were playing at home too on other teams, so you didn't, like, it's not like you weren't getting ice. Is that correct?
Correct. I was playing juniors at the time.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about getting into Vermont, and how did that come about? And was that your only offer?
No, we had a couple offers, and then that was the one that I really went with. So we were talking to Boston College and Findlay, Ohio, and stuff like that, but ended up at University of Vermont, and I loved it there. Yeah,
what made that your choice? Do you remember?
The coach and I really hit it off. Just seemed like the right fit for me.
What year was this?
2001.
Nice.
I do. Yeah.
So it was weird because I didn't even know about, like, the University of Vermont or whatever, and then all of a sudden two people from Utah were playing at Vermont at the same time. So Evan Stoffel was there right before you? Is that right?
After me.
Right.
Well,
after
he came during.
I mean, you guys. I couldn't remember who started first, but you guys overlapped. You were there at the same time, so it was awesome. I got to, I'd always try to watch the men's and the women's games, and so you went on and had, like, you set NCAA records. Is that right, or is it just Vermont records? It was NCAA records.
Yeah.
What were those records?
Most saves in a season, and then it was saves in a game. We had 66 saves against Wisconsin in a game.
Jeez. Man,
we lost 2-1.
Oh, that's amazing stats. I just remember you were throwing up some absurd numbers, and
Yes.
your team was not very strong, and you had the chance to shine. And I think I didn't bring my computer in with me, but you had it. Then you end up with over almost a 94% save average overall.
Yes.
Which is unheard of with the amount of shots you were taking, because it's not just like you're seeing shots. When you're outmatched like that, you're seeing legit scoring opportunities, 2-on-1s, 3-on-1s, wide open backdoor stuff, and you were making those saves. And so for me, just tell me a little bit about, like, what memories do you have the most at Vermont? Like, tell me things that stand out in your head when you think back about those times.
So, like, my team was awesome, and I feel like we had so much potential. And for some reason, we just couldn't get it out. But I had a blast. I mean, I absolutely loved that. But one thing that was really funny is we were playing in, I think it was Niagara, in a tournament, and we were up, we were winning, and I went to pass the puck and ended up icing. And our coach came in between the second and third period and just yelled at me because I iced the puck. And our goalie coach is like, dude, she's like, we're winning. And he's like, I know, I knew she could take it. So that was just funny to me because he just came in and and just went off. And everyone's like, whoa, he just yelled at me.
That seems like an odd thing to get yelled at about for icing.
Yeah,
So,
he's like, oh.
I've told this story a couple times. I don't know if I've told it on the podcast, but one of the times I got put in a game during the West Coast, back in the West Coast Hockey League days, and I was with the Anchorage Aces, and our coach was Walt Podubny, who used to be an NHL. He made the All-Star game a few times, but this was a coach that was he would disappear right after the game, and was, I think, a lot of times was maybe hitting the bottle during the game. But anyway,
who don't? Come on, who don't?
He was an entertaining coach, and man, he was not a big fan of mine, even though he was really nice to me. But one of the times I came out and I played the puck, which I shouldn't be doing anyway. Like I didn't even belong in the league, let alone trying to play the puck. But I played the puck and I passed it. I was trying to hit my guy, and obviously I put it right to the wrong guy. And then I made a save, or I did something, and there was a huge scramble. I remember my stick being behind the net and me just flopping all over trying to cover the puck. And same thing, Walt comes into the locker room between periods, and he's like, Stevens, what the F do you think you're doing playing the puck? He's like, you're the oldest player in the league. You shouldn't even be trying. Like, this is beyond you. You shouldn't be doing this. I'm going to start charging the fans more money because of the entertainment value of you trying to play the puck. And I was like, oh, my gosh. So he just, unloaded on me. And it's true. Like, my generation did not know how to play the puck. That wasn't, we were like, all right, we're going to make the first save. And then everything else is, like, if I give up a rebound, it's up to you guys because I'm going to be down. Like, we didn't move around like the goalies. All right, so you guys had, and I iced the puck in our game the other day.
Yeah, you did. It was a nice saucer right down. I thought you had our guy, but nothing.
Yeah. Well,
Laser.
Again, I just...
Yeah, and it was a lot of fun because, I mean, we played Olympians against in Harvard, and all those teams had them, so it was really fun for me to get to experience that. But
yeah, and I have a chip on my shoulder. You brought up the Olympians. I have a chip because you were clearly the best goalie available to USA. I don't know how you're going to agree or disagree with this, but I thought you should have been in the Olympics. Was it 2002? Yeah, it should have been. You should have been our Olympic goaltender in the 2002 Olympics, and somehow you got passed over. But if you looked at every statistical category in the NCAA, you should have been our goaltender, at least on the team. Do you remember all that?
I would have liked to have been.
Did they ever even talk to you, or did they already have their team picked well before the Olympics even were?
Not too much. The teams mostly stick together, I think.
But it's just, to me, I just remember looking back at those days, and I followed you as closely as, because, man, it was hard to get everything on what was going on in women's hockey. It was hard to even follow men's hockey a lot back then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There just wasn't the coverage that there is now. And but I remember just pulling up stats, and I'd be talking to people, and I'd just be like, man, Kami deserves a shot. Like, she at least deserves a pull-up, because they were doing the pre-Olympic tour where they put the Olympic team together, and then they'd go play college teams, or sometimes they'd play USHL teams or U16 teams, those AAA teams. And I was watching these numbers, and I'm like, man, Kami clearly deserves to be in the Olympics this year, or at least given a shot. And they never even... So, did they call you?
No.
Nothing.
But so is that what they do? They just try to put a team together and stick them together for a long time, right?
Right, and that's...
Well, because they have those whole development programs you go through, and...
Right.
And it seems,
and it does help if you have more of a winning record than a losing record.
and that is one of the things, because I did bring that up with. I've brought it up a few times because you have a goaltender that throws up phenomenal numbers and they get overlooked for something, and I brought that up with because the coaches that or the goalies that I was coaching here were throwing up. It was my son Tegan and a kid named Weston Mon, and these guys had 94, 95% save averages going through everything, and we weren't the best teams going to in any of these tournaments, and one of the coaches was like, yeah, hey, it's one thing to be on a team where you're going to see 60, 70 shots. He's like, I feel like the pressure is less on that goaltender.
Yeah.
Because if they make, if they make 66 saves like you did and lose 2-1, then that's phenomenal. Or they lose 5-1, then whatever. The goalie is in a no lose situation because they're going to make a ton of saves. But if you go to a team that's, in the running but maybe not the best, and there's a lot more pressure on the goaltender to get a 2-1 win. It's like they were just looking at it different. But at the same time, when you and I get that you build a developmental team and you try to keep them together, but you also, like, if you look at the '80 Olympic team, they threw together a bunch of the best college kids available at the time. They didn't
that people didn't think should be on the team, and they left.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I'm getting at is that. They should have been looking at people that were thriving and people that maybe had a little bit more. I don't know. I think they should have given you a chance. Is all I'm getting at. I really thought with everything that was going on and all the numbers you were putting up, that and especially with the Olympics being here, I was like, man, this would be ideal to have.
I enjoyed it all.
Yeah. So you graduate from Vermont and you pursue a coaching career, correct?
Yeah, I did a year of my master's, and then I went to the University of North Dakota as an assistant coach.
And were you there until they dropped the program, or did you leave before that?
No, I was there for a year, and they fired the coach mid-season, the head coach, and it just got crazy.
So, and then they ended up dropping their program, which was absurd.
Yes, I was surprised about that.
Like, you'd think any university, if you could handpick a university in the country where you're like, where a women's team will be successful, is either University of North Dakota or University of Minnesota.
Or Minnesota.
Yeah, right. Those are like the first two you'd pick.
Why would they do that? Why would they drop that?
I don't know. There was all kinds of. Honestly, they lost a lot of funding. There was fighting over the Sioux name, right? So. Tons of people were upset with that, so they did lose some funding, and I don't know.
But that stadium was amazing.
Yeah, the best. I mean, that was the best building for hockey, not just college hockey, but hockey overall.
For any hockey.
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah. And it was cool because I got to go, that's when Zach Parisi and Jordan Parisi were there, and they had these little cards. So we could go in whenever we wanted. And the training, there is not a nicer rink or training facility in the world. It was unbelievable, and it was just we just go and have access, and then there was the main game rink that sold out every game, and then there was a women's rink on the backside. It was still just amazing, but yeah, and it's just
it was all pretty top notch there.
So pretty crazy that they dropped their program. So Kami, why that was that was kind of it for you, right? You stopped at that point.
And then I came back home, back to Utah, played a little bit more, and then I blew my knee out. And then I had a couple kids since then. So
yeah. And so what's your master's degree in, and what are you doing now?
So I just stay at home with my kids. But I did teaching. I taught for 10 years.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were still doing that, because you taught at you and my wife worked together at the same school for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, so my degree is in physical education with exercise science. So I was certified strength and conditioning and all that stuff. So,
well, we've got to find a way to get you back out and coaching, because can you tell us more about, because you just went back to Vermont. I want to say it was last year, but it's probably 5 years ago. I'm in a time warp now that I'm old.
It was a couple years ago.
So tell us about that.
Well, it was about it was about 4 years ago. So I just got inducted into the University of Vermont Hall of Fame. So we went back up there and
Awesome.
enjoyed it all.
Congrats. That's
So-
great.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Quite the honor. It was fun.
So how did they just reach out to you and say, "Hey, come on out. We're gonna give you an award," or did you know it was in the works beforehand?
Nope. So I just got a phone call. I was out with my mom one day and got a phone call from the women's hockey coach saying that I've been chosen to be inducted, and they would send me the details and to save the date.
Wow, that's so cool! Congratulations on
Yeah,
that. But
that's
I mean,
fantastic.
you worked hard to earn that, and we don't see him calling Evan. So,
Yeah.
Or us.
so
Oh, wait,
Kami,
what?
for the parents that are listening, and especially the parents of female athletes that are working their way up the charts, what would be your advice if you were the parent of a 10-year-old girl that's playing hockey right now? What would you tell that parent?
My biggest thing is with sports, like, don't specialize so quick. Like, let them, like, especially 10 years old, they don't need to just play hockey, that they could play other things too and still be just as good. And for, like, especially females, I think people underestimate how big strength and conditioning is. And it's okay to build muscle. It's not going to make you huge. I know a lot of girls or females are like, I don't want to get big. But if you keep that, then you're not going to get hurt. So I think people underestimate how much the strength and conditioning is important for athletics. So I rarely got hurt, and if I did, it was a puck to the neck or something. It wasn't anything like a torn, like a hamstring or anything like that. But
Yeah, actually,
so and keep grades up, because it's so much easier to get into college if you have good grades. It's easier to make the whole process
Yeah.
man,
work.
you're hitting all the key parts, man. That's what we keep telling everybody.
Man, because
Yeah.
when I was coaching, and you look at some people, you're like, whoa, that's gonna that's gonna take a lot to try to even get you into the university. So
Yeah,
But-
and that's North Dakota that had basically a 95% acceptance rate, right? Like, it was.
yeah, so and I mean, as academics just as important, man. Because if you did get hurt, I mean, you have something to fall back on too. If something happens, I mean, if you couldn't play anymore, you could still have your degree or whatever you're in.
Yeah,
Keep trying to tell my son that he's 8 and he wants to be in the NHL now. And it's like,
Yeah.
dude, just go to school, do your math.
have a
You're-
backup plan. Yeah, that's outstanding. Any pitfalls that you'd say to watch out for? Maybe besides just not hitting the gym?
I'd make sure you enjoy it, because, man, it goes by fast, too. Because you're sitting there playing, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I'm getting older, and then it gets a little harder. So I think, especially when you're young, especially high school, really enjoy it and play it because you love it, not because you have to.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But
And then what?
so
If you could thank somebody right now, obviously your parents played a huge role, but if you could thank a local, maybe not even locals, if you could thank a coach or somebody that helped you realize that it was your passion or help you, get to where you got, who would that be? Who would you thank now?
I have a lot of coaches. I worked with Natalie Tate, obviously, who's also another stellar goalie.
Yeah.
Helped me realize a little bit what I had. And then my college coach, he was amazing. So, but to help you realize, you have what it takes. Because, you're still growing. You get better every day. Even in college, I still got better than I was when I went. So
Yeah.
you learn different things. And I think one thing for goalies is some people are getting so set on the style. I think, if you block the puck, no one's going to care what you look like. So I wouldn't get
Hey.
so focused on that. I'm like, man, I see some goalies that will just get scored on because they're so worried about technique. And I'm like, man, you know what? If you just block that puck, your team's not going to care how it looks.
Yeah, because
So
there's a huge difference. And I was just
Because
having
I would stack my pads, and people don't do that anymore. But I'm like, man, that was the quickest way I could get there.
yeah, for sure. And Phil Snyder and I were just having this conversation about Martin Ouellette, the Grizzlies goalie right now. Mm. He has style, but he's not, these Carey Price cookie cutter goalies, which I also help produce in my camp. I know that I'm guilty of that, but he's there's a difference between being a style goaltender and a blocking, like a shot blocking goalie. And like you look at guys like Dominic Hasek that made a career out of just blocking shots.
Oh, man, he was amazing.
Well, cool.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty, but he got it done.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
And he's a Hall of Fame goaltender now and has his own clothing line. So, all right. Well, Kami, I'm glad we finally got you on the show, and I'm glad you got to tell your story. And is there anything else? I mean, the floor is yours right now. If there's anything else you want to say to people as they're to the other hockey players out there.
I just say keep working hard and keep believing, because you never know where you will end up. I mean, I didn't think I'd go to college, and I loved playing there, so especially back east. So that's my big thing. I mean, especially females, that you can go as far as you want. You just got to work hard.
Yeah.
Well, Kami,
well said.
There's got to be a way. Like, once your kids get a little older and you get them into schools and everything, we would love to have you back coaching.
I started to pick it up a little. My two boys started skating a little bit and made you think about it. I had to be on the ice and playing.
Yeah, well, we'd love to see you.
Oh, man.
We'd love to see you out there and playing and coaching, because you're a great resource, and we're just proud of you, and we're proud that you're in the Hall of Fame there in Vermont, and it's just another great thing that Utah hockey's produced, and I think you've just been phenomenal. And I've loved always hiring you to teach the younger kids around here in my camp, and it's just, you're an awesome resource, and congratulations on everything, and we can't wait to have you back on the ice.
Thank you, and thank you for all you do for hockey.
All I get to do is talk about it. I love it.
Exactly.
All right, that was the Utah Puck Report. Thank you so much for listening. The Utah Puck Report is a KSLSports.com podcast. And if you haven't subscribed yet, then you can. All you got to do is text the word puck to 57500.
And you can also catch us online, too, at KSLSports.com and right there at the Arrow website, 1035thearrow.com.
That's awesome. And we want to thank Josh Tilton, our producer. He's the one that keeps us in line, keeps the things rolling. And he doesn't roll tape, as you would say.
He does not.
But he does produce the show in all the digital ways. So once again, thank you so much for listening to the Utah Puck Report.